Welcome to a series called The End of Times, where we're going through the book of Revelation verse by verse to see what it is we can expect to happen in the end times, or more importantly, what it is we should be doing in the end times, because there's definitely things that we should be doing in the book of Revelation. It gives us very clear instructions. And where we are in the book of Revelation is we've hit chapter 18 and we've talked about Babylon, the harlot, for multiple episodes. We've talked about the beast for multiple episodes, and we're really getting into detail on the destruction of Babylon. And of course, the destruction of Babylon, all of 18 is on it, and it gives a lot of detail. So there's much we should talk about. And it's not just seeing the destruction, it's understanding why, it's understanding where, it's understanding what. There's so many aspects of this particular part of Revelation. So we're just going to pick it up where we left off, and we're going to start, we're going to go back a little bit. We're going to pick it up at Revelation 18, starting in verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, lest you receive of her plagues. For her sins have reached to heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Render to her just as she rendered to you, and repay her double according to her works. In the cup which she is mixed, mix for her double. In the measure that she glorified herself and lived luxuriously, in the same measure give her torment and sorrow. For she says in her heart, I sit as queen, I am no widow, and I will not see sorrow. Therefore, her plagues will come in one day, death and mourning and famine. And she will be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judges her." I'm going to pause there for just a second because, we've talked about these passages, but what we're seeing is we're seeing a nation that is a harlot. And as we talked about this nation, just kind of a quick recap, the reason she's a harlot is because she's all the sexual misconduct, the sex industry, the porn industry, and all the kings of the earth are also fornicating with her. She is providing the means to fornicate. As well as this nation lives luxuriously. They buy, got to have the next best thing, the next best thing, the next best thing. And I've said in multiple episodes that there's no doubt in my mind, I obviously could be wrong, but in my mind, I think I'm right. I believe this is America. There is no other nation like it. So as I read these following verses, I just want you to kind of pray on that, meditate on that, and just think about that. As we read these next verses, is this America that we're talking about here? Pick it up in 18:9. "And the kings of the earth who committed fornication and lived luxurious with her will weep and lament for her when they see the smoke of her burning, standing at a distance for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come." I'm going to pause there for one moment too, because that word city, and we've talked about this in another episode, that's not the word city. Look it up. That word is similar to the word city, and similar to the word town. So they just put city in there. But this word, the Romans would have been republic. The republic is what this word is closely related to. So instead of saying city, it should say the republic. Pick it up there. "And the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise anymore." Ladies and gentlemen, could you imagine what would happen to the economy of the world, the merchants of the world, if America was destroyed? It wouldn't exist anymore. The economy wouldn't exist anymore. We literally buy up this one nation buys up most of the resources of the world. Let's keep going. What kind of resources? Merchandise of gold and silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen and purple, silk and scarlet, every kind of citron, wood, every kind of object of ivory, every kind of object of most precious wood, bronze, iron, and marble. Every kind of object, every kind. Now, we're not just talking about statues and pretty things. We're talking about technology. We're talking about everything that is made of anything. All these things, the finest of everything that's made up of the finest of everything. Keep going. "And cinnamon and incense, fragrant oil and frankincense, wine and oil, fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and chariots, and the bodies and souls of men." So what we're talking about here is we're talking about the finest foods. We're talking about the best restaurants. The world has never seen the type of food that we have collectively. You know, if you're in a place like New York City, you can walk outside and you can get some of the finest foods in the world. Foods that back in this day, they would have had to travel to India just and go to the finest restaurants there to try, or they'd have to travel to China to try. Nobody just had all that in one place. No, only America has ever had that in one place. And chariots, nobody rides around in chariots like Americans. Everybody has a chariot. Everybody does. I got one, probably got 2 or 3. Some people have garages filled with dozens and dozens of chariots. And the bodies and souls of men, you know, a lot of lives have been lost in this country because of gluttony. A lot of lives have been lost in this country because of fornication. The bodies and souls of men is at the cost of this as well. Let's keep going. And the fruit that your soul longed for has gone from you, and all the things which are rich and splendid have gone from you, and you shall find them no more at all. The merchants of these things who became rich by her will stand at a distance for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and adorned in gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour such great riches came to nothing. And every shipmaster, all who travel by ship, sailor, and as many as trade on the sea, stood at a distance and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What is like this great city? You know, there's not a lot of nations, too, that are on many waters, multiple waters, that border multiple waters. Merchants of the earth would not be able to see, you know, growing up, I was always told that Babylon was a geographical city in Iraq, which, by the way, God said would never be habitated again, so it can't be that. But let's just put that aside. Maybe it is that. Well, it can't be that. It's a desolate wasteland. The merchants of the earth would not weep if an abandoned city in Iraq was destroyed, nor could they see it from their ships. And on multiple seas. It's just preposterous to suggest that somehow the city of Babylon is going to do something. We're talking about a nation. It's a nation of multiple tribes, tongues, peoples, races, and religions, is what the Bible tells us in Revelation 17, 1 through 4. It's a nation that just buys. Everybody's riding around in chariots. Everybody just buys, got to have the best. And it's not that you just got to have this thing. You got to have the best of that thing. And then once you get that thing, you need the best next thing, and the best next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. There is no other country like that. You can travel the world. You ever travel the world? People aren't like that everywhere else. It's just here. We consume most of the resources of the world. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner this kind of starts to make sense. But in addition to that, is the harlot piece. It is the whore aspect. No nation in the world produces a fraction of the pornography that America produces. A fraction. You know, and I said that back when we talked about this, and some people say, well, what about all that coming from Europe? They're talking less than 1%. The other 99% comes from America. The sex slave industry comes from America. There is no place on the planet that has a sex industry like this country. And in addition to that, everybody's out with multiple partners. Everybody's out trying to hook up, one-night stands, adultery, and on and on and on and on and on. There is no other nation like this. But in addition to that, they literally use the word the Republic. People, I think it's important that, you know, I think this video is extremely important because we have to see that we're living in Babylon. You know, I'm here in the Ozarks of Missouri right now. I'm literally in the heart of Babylon. And the problem with all this is that we're all engaging in it. All of us are engaging in indulgent spending. All of us are engaging in this sexual lifestyle of America that is just unlike anything the world has ever seen it since Sodom and Gomorrah. But in addition to that, this is so incredibly important, because if we go back to the very first verse that I read, which was, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people. Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, lest you receive of her plagues." That's why. And I think there's two aspects of this. One, we need to not engage. We need to come out like that lifestyle. You got to get away from that lifestyle. And we're all, how? You have to do it, but you have to pull that off somehow. But in addition to that, I think there's a point where we physically have to leave. It's a warning. It's a warning. He literally is saying, "My people, leave." I definitely want to come back to that. I'm not done with that conversation yet, but I kind of want to for this piece, we'll come back to what it means to come out of her, and we'll also come back to, continue on with these merchants. But I just want to say that this particular episode is dedicated so you can open your eyes and you can see that you're living in Babylon. If you're living in America, Canada, parts of Europe, you're living in Babylon, and it's gonna get destroyed. It's a third of the earth is gonna get destroyed. And the merchants of the earth will stand off at a distance and weep, because who's gonna buy their garbage anymore? Who's gonna buy all their fine linens and the TVs? Who's gonna buy all those cars? Who's gonna buy all our food? Who's gonna buy all our on and on and on? You're living in Babylon. I think it's important that even if for some reason you're like, you know what, no, I'm not living in Babylon. Babylon's this city over in Iraq, and someday it's going to be like America. It's just going to be, everybody, someday it'll be like, this is an exact description of what I just read. America is an exact description of all of chapter 17 and all of chapter 18. Let me repeat that. And I recommend go back and read it all and think America. America is all of chapter 17 and all of chapter 18 and much of chapter 19. And people say, well, America's not in the Bible. Looks like 2.5 chapters are dedicated to America. But in the end, the reality is even if I'm wrong, and I don't believe I am wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't believe I'm wrong. I think I nailed it on this one. I think many people are going to agree with this. I think most people see it too. Anybody that's read chapter 17, 18, and 19 is going to say, well, that sounds like America to me. But even if I'm wrong, we're still living in that exact description. Like, we're living in what was just described. And God is not okay with that. And he definitely wants you to stop it, at the very least. Love to hear any thoughts or insight on that. Put it in the comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. If you feel called to support this channel with Patreon, that link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests. So please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.